Well, welcome back to another edition of the Business Spotlight Series. My name is Tanner O'Brien. I'm a senior partner here at ActionCOACH in Central Texas. And today I am joined by Max Ward, the co-founder and CEO of Libera. So he's going to share a little bit about his journey and a little bit about the company and how you got to where you are today. So Max, I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time. And I'm going to hand it over to you. Why don't you share a little bit about the company, about your background, and let's start there.
Yeah, I'm originally from Austin, born and raised, went to school, through college. And my career, though, is all overseas. And I've just moved back because of the tech trends around Austin as Silicon Valley. And I thought, might as well put my business headquarters here as much as anywhere else in the world, which is kind of exciting. I think that's a great trend that's happened with Central Texas, where you can say that, or say that you're based in Central Texas and running a business in technology, basically anywhere around the world. So that's a really good thing. And what I just am inspired by as a challenge, which is a really big challenge, is just supporting supply chains, which is the industry that I got into after I left Texas, and supporting them for growing consumers in emerging markets around the world. So these are pretty dysfunctional supply chains. People complain about the price of eggs or availability of things in HEB, but that isn't really as dysfunctional to me as it is the rest of the world, and how we have growth, which is also an amazing story. There's hundreds of millions, really billions of people that have gone from low income and poverty into lower middle class. And that changes the whole nature of demand for goods on the planet. And then we've got to get those products to them. So, I have a lot of concepts and, ideas that I developed over time. And then I got inspired by some data science AI people that I worked with in London, and kind of created this company to solve big problems with our technology, which we're pretty excited about, and help a lot of people at the same time that we're making supply chains more profitable for very large consumer goods brands.
Very cool. It's fascinating. And how long has the business been open?
It's gone through a couple of iterations. We had a different structure where, I've been in Hong Kong for a long time, and this is my second startup that I started in Hong Kong. But during COVID, I don't know, Hong Kong was very isolated, and I actually ended up in Ukraine looking for AI people. So I even moved myself there, and then I thought I would kind of have a company that worked on a Ukraine-Dubai axis and just kind of go back and forth. So that worked up until about 11 months ago. So, and then from a leadership perspective, that was as big a challenge as I've been through, because 90% of the company was Ukrainian. So we helped as many people as we could, but we really ultimately had to go with the new structure. So then I went to Philippines and really set up a new structure there, really with the same objectives, but with a different tech base that I got from my current co-founder, who was the head of product at my last startup. And then we're just putting all that into a US company and then raising seed capital into it.
Very cool. So lots of time overseas, coming back to Austin. What was so started two startups you'd mentioned?
Yeah, the first one I worked at, for example, for DHL for a number of years, looked after the retail consumer industry at a regional level, Asia Pac. That was really great. And when you start to see the perspective of Asia as a region, I think that's where you start to learn about the scale of opportunity and the nature of some of the challenges. So I started, OpenPort was my first company, and then we worked with brands like Nestle on digital trucking solutions in 6 markets, from Pakistan, India, Indonesia, Philippines, a little bit of China. And then after OpenPort, then I kind of got into this field of AI, and then I thought, well, how could we take that into these same markets?
Very cool. So I'm curious on in your journey and shifting and kind of making that overall decision to we're going to go start something. First startup, now on the second one. What was that journey look like? Was it a difficult switch or transition to move into? Nope, we're going to start something of our own now. Was that just
Well,
a was that easy for you? Kind of give me a little bit of context on
yeah, I
how
mean,
that transition happened.
I worked in Silicon Valley when I was younger, like really early in my career, and I worked, not as a founder, but as an early stage employee for a couple of companies, and that was really had a big impact on me, and it uh, I just always wanted to do that. I always wanted to give it a try, and then after a couple of decades in corporate, and I wanted to be that guy that raises venture money and does something really unique. You only go around once. You only have one life, one career. So let's go for it. So I really was kind of saving up in reserve for a long time, energy wise, which is something that I think is really important. But I didn't realize how hard it actually would be. I didn't really
Mm,
realize it's and I think it's one thing. I think starting any business is hard. Um, you know, I think if you were starting, you know, Franklin's barbecue or whatever, I mean, it's all going to be hard, right? And it's taxing on founders that really build it up from scratch, from nothing. But when you're really looking at a venture path or something that's really tackling big problems and trying to solve them at scale, and then to deliver rapid growth and raise money and build product and do sales and manage a team all at the same time. If you haven't done that before, it's interesting. It's a lot of new things on your plate. So then, but I still see the same opportunities, and I still see the same challenges, and that's just what I want to do, is kind of build things that link those two worlds.
that's fantastic. So I'm you'd mentioned there's some difficulty, there's challenge when anybody's starting business, and in your journey specifically, was there a particular challenge or hurdle that you had to overcome that has kind of been more defining in kind of your progress forward? Is there kind of any moment or a handful of moments that you can kind of point to and say, yep, those are pretty defining in my journey to getting where you are today?
Well, one thing is, with both companies, we wanted to incorporate blockchain into our technology, and then go down. We really down a crypto path to create tools to do micro incentives, where we could have something that we could disseminate and put trust around it, so we could get a lot of data. And the first company from truckers, and really in the second company with Libera, from retailers. And I think that gets into an unhealthy hype cycle with crypto, to put it mildly. And then when that busts out of your own control, that's been tough. So I think that's really like things that are outside of your control. Like, there are things you're managing your investors, you're managing your employees, and there are things that, customers are kind of outside of your control, but there are professional skills that you can apply to manage your relationship with customers, and there's marketing. And then what about just like black swans, or things that just come out of nowhere, like FTX, or Russia invades the country where your whole team is? How do you handle that? And the reality is, those things always happen. If you really, I mean, if you the only business book that I think is really good about this is Hard Thing About Hard Things. And it basically says, if the house isn't on fire, you're probably not paying attention as a CEO, right? And that's the reality. And it's only people that have been in that role. And if you haven't, then you just think it's some sort of ivory tower job, where with a golden throne. But the reality is, it's actually, there's unexpected things constantly being thrown at you, and then you have to be able to lead. And then it probably comes down to things like leading with purpose, and really anchoring your whole organization around that, so that you can make it through those extremely tough patches.
Mm, I love that. And I always like to ask kind of the question on, what are your current keys to success, or what do you do consistently? But knowing that there are things that pop up out of nowhere that you weren't planned for, and these things happen all the time. I'm curious for you, is there kind of any practice or um, just general thing that you do or consistently in your life that helps you stay, on top of being able to handle random things that are outside of your control, and being able to just kind of navigate around them as they come, and kind of have that flexibility. Is there is there anything that you would say you attribute kind of your ability to do that, that you would recommend or be willing to share with others?
Well, I think it's not easy, right? But you got to stay calm and collected, and at the same time that you're putting passion and emotion into your business. So that's not easy. I think there is something in really being purpose driven. It's something people talk a lot about, and it is. I used to think it was really fluffy, but then to a large extent, I do believe that purpose defines culture, and then culture is really the DNA that allows you to not have everything on your own shoulders, but really on your organization and with your team. And then people do step up, right? And people can excel, and that's when things are good, is when you see people on the team do more, go above and beyond, because people want to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves, and they want to be they want to get a salary, usually, not always, but they want to be compensated, and they want to have a chance at some valuable compensation and rewards for building something that's valuable, but they also want to be a part of something that's has a good purpose, and I think that's important for human beings. And so it's easier said than done, but if you can get that DNA right and really build a good structure, then you can reap the rewards, including maybe be a little bit less stressed out from the challenges that present themselves every week or every day.
Excellent. So I want to take a step back and so y'all use AI as in the process of supply chain data and things like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is really where really trying to carve out a little bit of a niche, and I think it's one thing to do it in the U.S., where it was not necessarily easy in the U.S. either, but there's pretty good data sets out there, and particularly in the retail world. The challenge in Asia is you have a country like Indonesia, and you have 280, close to 300 million consumers. A lot of people don't know it's actually a pretty big country. West to east, it's bigger than the continental 48 continental U.S. states, on just a distance covered basis. So there's a lot of consumers there, and almost 90% of the retail sector is still not digital. And the result of that is brands don't. So Unilever would have 3 million points of sale, but they would not have reliable data on what's happening in those points of sale.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of companies that are starting to, because of Android, they're starting to go after that part of the market, and they have different types of apps and tools that help the small retailer. And a small retailer in Jakarta can be very small. I mean, like, can be a store on wheels. It's very small. And it helps them to manage their inventory. Increasingly, they want to sell digitally. So they want to sell with digital payments. And there's a lot of things that you almost need to have an application that allows you to run that small business. What we also have is a complete platform of upstream supply chain management tools. So we sell this to very large brands like Mondelez, which is Oreos. And we're really working on getting the capital in so we can deploy on these very large projects. These are commercial deployments, and then the brands pay us on a SaaS basis for the supply chain management technology, but we incorporate in the data that we get from these small stores, and we share some of the economic value of that data with the micro retailers. But actually, what it looks like the biggest impact for them is really getting them access to credit, and it's something that I'm looking for. And if you think about it, getting access to, we all know how it works in the US with your credit score and social security number and revenue history and all that. So imagine you don't have any of that, right? Like, how are you going to get credit? Like, you're not. So by incorporating the right type of data sets and then selling them to groups like Bank of Philippine Islands. We can set up bank accounts for a lot of these people and then give them a means to get the credit, and then link that lending with recommendation engines on what products are selling well in their area. And so that's how you can start to incorporate AI in a way, and AI is recommendation engines based upon a bigger data set, and then linking that to inventory optimization. You can't really be recommending products as the distributor of Oreos unless you have those types of Oreos on hand. Otherwise, you're getting into lost sales. And all then links into demand forecasting. So it's all one kind of big, massive challenge. And combined with the ability to use that data potentially to really put a little extra money in the wallets of these small retailers. But if we can get them, which we're starting to do, get them to the credit they really need. That's a real game changer.
That's fascinating. I appreciate you going through that, because whenever AI is brought up in any context right now, it's kind of a more of a buzzword. A lot of folks are starting to kind of talk about it, but I think it's important to kind of look at how is that tool being used in different ways. So I appreciate kind of walking through, like, where does that fit in, and how does that actually, solve the issue that y'all are looking to solve, which is really fascinating, really cool. So I appreciate that. I do want to be respectful of time. I kind of see where we're at here on our timing, and always like to end on kind of one final question. But before I do that, Max, how can our viewers find out more information? How can they connect with you if they want to learn more from you specifically? Where would you direct people to gain more information?
Yeah, I mean, it's just Max at Liberatrade.io, and we've got a new website we're putting up. Also Twitter. You can find me and the company there. But yeah, just email. We're not that big. We're just reseeding the company really. But we've got very big commercial opportunities in Asia once we can close that, and hopefully we'll be on CNN Philippines in the next couple of months based on an award that we won towards the end of last year. So we're starting to get more exposure. The products is there and we're deploying. But yeah, please reach out to me if there's any interest, and we are looking for partners in the US.
Beautiful. I appreciate that. And for those watching, I will link the contact information below, so make sure that you grab it, take a look, reach out to Max. But Max, as we finish up here, final question I'd love to ask everyone as we kind of wrap up these conversations, but what's most inspiring to you today?
Well, I think that life is challenged and the world has challenges, but we just keep fighting, and people persevere and people step up. And so obviously I'm biased on about Ukraine, but I start seeing these tanks being sent over, I get excited, and that's a long wait for those people to get some real help that they need. And when you start to seeing different countries and people even taking money out of their own pocket, I think we all have a bigger purpose, and we want to help others and live in a better world. And we get down about our divisions and people disagreeing, and ultimately I think there's some real good stories out there that we can look for. So I don't things like that, I think get me excited and it's inspired. And it's nice to see downtown Austin being a real downtown, I have to say. People complain about that too, that it's too much change, but I think it's actually becoming a pretty cool city. So those are the things that I find very positive and inspiring.
I love that and greatly appreciate it. Max, thank you so much for taking the time to just sit down and have this conversation, sharing a little bit about your journey and the things that y'all are doing at the company and continue to grow it and solving challenges. It's really fun to see those things. So appreciate you being here and sharing your story with us here today.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Really enjoyed it.